The bustling streets of New York City seemed to blur as I made my way through the crowded sidewalks. The towering skyscrapers loomed overhead, a testament to the ambition and drive that fueled this concrete jungle. Among these architectural marvels stood the imposing structure of Thompson & Company, my workplace for the past decade. Today marked my return to headquarters after years of toiling in various subsidiary companies across the country. As I approached the gleaming glass doors of the building, a mixture of nostalgia and anticipation washed over me. The last time I had walked through these doors, I was a fresh-faced college graduate, eager to make my mark on the corporate world. Now, at 35, I returned with a wealth of experience under my belt and a reputation as a rising star within the company. Little did I know that this day would bring an unexpected blast from the past, one that would challenge my composure and remind me of how far I've come. I pushed through the revolving door, the cool air-conditioned breeze, a welcome respite from the sweltering summer heat outside. The lobby had undergone a significant transformation since I'd last been here. Gone was the austere, almost clinical atmosphere of old. In its place was a modern, inviting space that exuded warmth and creativity. Plush, ergonomic seating areas dotted the expansive floor, each one adorned with sleek tablets for visitors to use. The walls, once a stark white, now boasted vibrant murals depicting the company's journey through the years. A state-of-the-art holographic display dominated the center of the lobby, showcasing the latest products and innovations from Thompson & Company. As I made my way to the reception desk, my eyes were drawn to a familiar face that I hadn't seen in years. My heart skipped a beat as recognition dawned on me. It was Amber Sullivan, my ex-girlfriend from college. Amber stood near one of the seating areas, engaged in animated conversation with a young man I didn't recognize. Her auburn hair cascaded over her shoulders in loose waves, and her emerald eyes sparkled as she laughed at something her companion said. She looked different from how I remembered her, more polished, more sophisticated, but unmistakably Amber. Our eyes met for a brief moment, and I saw a flicker of recognition cross her face. But before I could decide whether to acknowledge her or not, she turned back to her conversation partner, seemingly dismissing my presence. I approached the reception desk, trying to push thoughts of Amber to the back of my mind. The receptionist, a friendly-looking woman with a warm smile, greeted me. "Welcome to Thompson & Company. How may I assist you today?" "Hi, I'm Jack Thompson. I have an appointment with Mr. Richardson at 10 a.m. The receptionist's eyes widened slightly at the mention of my name. "Oh, Mr. Thompson. We've been expecting you. Mr. Richardson is currently in a meeting, but he should be available shortly. Would you mind waiting for a few minutes?" I nodded. "Of course, no problem at all." "Great," she said, handing me a sleek visitor's badge. "Feel free to explore the lobby while you wait. We've recently renovated, and there's a fantastic coffee bar on the mezzanine level if you'd like to grab a drink." I thanked her and decided to take a stroll around the lobby, curious to see what other changes had been made. As I wandered, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. This was the company I had dedicated a decade of my life to, and it had grown into something truly impressive. My peaceful exploration was interrupted by a shrill voice that sent a chill down my spine. Well, 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 if it isn't Jack Thompson." I turned to find Amber standing before me, a saturating smile plastered on her face. The young man she had been talking to earlier stood slightly behind her, an amused smirk playing on his lips. "Amber?" I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. "It's been a while." She laughed, the sound grating on my nerves. "A while? Try a decade, Jack. What brings you to the big leagues? Finally managed to climb out of whatever backwater office they stuck you in?" I bit back a retort, reminding myself that I was a professional. "I'm here for a meeting with Mr. Richardson. And you? I didn't realize you worked here." Amber's smile widened, taking on a predatory edge. "Oh, I've been here a couple years now. Unlike some people, I didn't need to spend a decade in the trenches to make it to headquarters." The young man beside her chuckled, and Amber turned to him with a simpering look. "Oh, where are my manners? Jack, this is Tyler Richardson. You know, the CEO's son and future head of the company." Tyler extended his hand, his grip firm as we shook. "Nice to meet you, Jack. Always good to put a face to the name. I've heard interesting things about you." I raised an eyebrow, wondering what exactly he meant by that. Before I could inquire further, Amber chimed in again. Oh, Tyler, darling, I'm parched. Be a dear and fetch us some coffee, would you? She turned to me, her voice dripping with false sweetness. You'll join us, won't you, Jack? For old time's sake? Tyler looked slightly taken aback by Amber's request, but nodded nonetheless.
Sure thing, babe. Jack, how do you take your coffee?
Black. Thanks. I replied, still trying to process the bizarre situation I found myself in. As Tyler walked away, Amber's demeanor changed instantly. The saturating smile dropped, replaced by a look of disdain. Listen here, Jack, she hissed, her voice low. I don't know what you think you're doing here, but let me make one thing clear. This is my turf now. I've worked hard to get where I am. I'm not about to let some blast from the past ruin it for me. I stared at her, momentarily stunned by the venom in her voice. Amber, I'm not here to cause any trouble. I'm just here for a meeting, that's all. She scoffed, tossing her hair over her shoulder. Please, we both know you're not cut out for the big leagues. You're always too soft, too eager to please. That's why I dumped you, remember? The memory of our breakup flashed through my mind. The pain, the confusion, the feeling of inadequacy. But I wasn't that same naive college kid anymore. Look, Amber, I said, my voice firm. What happened between us is in the past. We're both professionals now, and I suggest we act like it. Amber's eyes narrowed, but before she could respond, Tyler returned with our coffees.
Here we go,
he said, handing us our drinks.
So, Jack, Amber tells us that you two go way back. College sweethearts, huh?
I took a sip of my coffee, buying time to formulate a diplomatic response. We dated briefly in college, yes. It was a long time ago. Amber latched onto Tyler's arm, her voice taking on a sickly sweet tone again. Oh, Tyler, it was nothing serious. Jack here was more like a loyal puppy than a boyfriend. Always following me around, doing whatever I asked. It was cute, in a pathetic sort of way. I felt my jaw clench, but I forced myself to remain calm. This wasn't the time or place for a confrontation. Tyler looked between us, clearly enjoying the tension.
Wow, isn't this cozy? The ex-lovers reunited. You know, Jack, Amber here is quite the asset to our company. Always willing to go the extra mile, if you know what I mean.
The implication in his words was clear, and I felt a surge of disgust. Not at Amber, despite our history. I didn't care much about her personal life, but at Tyler's crass behavior. I'm sure Amber is very capable, I said neutrally. Now, you'll excuse me? I should check if Mr. Richardson is ready for our meeting. As I turned to leave, Amber's voice stopped me. Oh, Jack? Be a dear and grab us some pastries from the coffee bar upstairs, would you? For old time's sake. I turned back, ready to refuse, but the challenging look in her eyes made me pause. She was testing me, seeing if I was still the same pushover she knew in college. I'm not here to run errands, Amber, I said firmly. You want pastries? You can get them yourself. Amber's face contorted with anger, but before she could say anything, a new voice joined our conversation. Is there a problem here? We all turned to see a woman approaching us. She was in her early 40s, with short black hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. Her tailored suit spoke of authority, and the way she carried herself left no doubt that she was someone important.
Miss Chen,
Tyler said, his tone suddenly respectful.
We were just catching up with an old friend of Amber's.
The woman, Miss Chen, turned her piercing gaze on me. You must be Jack Thompson. I'm Sarah Chen, head of operations. Mr. Richardson is ready for you now. I nodded, relief washing over me. Thank you, Miss Chen. Pleasure to meet you. As I prepared to follow Miss Chen, I couldn't resist one last glance at Amber and Tyler. Amber's face was a mask of barely contained fury, while Tyler looked confused and slightly worried. Miss Chen led me towards the elevators, her stride purposeful. Once we were out of earshot, she spoke again. I apologize for that unpleasant encounter, Mr. Thompson. Rest assured, such behavior is not typical or tolerated at Thompson & Company. I was surprised by her words. Thank you, Miss Chen. I appreciate that. She nodded curtly as we stepped into the elevator. Your reputation precedes you, Mr. Thompson. The work you've done for our subsidiaries is impressive. I look forward to seeing what you'll bring to our headquarters. As the elevator ascended, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The encounter with Amber had rattled me more than I cared to admit. Miss Chen's words served as a reminder of why I was here. I had worked hard to get to this point. I had proven myself time and time again, and no ghost from my past was going to derail me now. The elevator doors opened, revealing a bustling office floor. Miss Chen led me through a maze of cubicles and corner offices until we reached a large, imposing door at the end of the hallway. Mr. Richardson is waiting for you, she said, gesturing towards the door. Good luck, Mr. Thompson. With a deep breath, I straightened my tie and knocked on the door. A gruff voice called out, "Come in." I stepped into the spacious office, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The past was behind me, and my future at Thompson & Company was about to begin. Little did I know, this meeting would set in motion a series of events that would not only change my career, but also force me to confront my past and redefine my future. As I entered Mr. Richardson's office, I was immediately struck by the panoramic view of the New York skyline that dominated the far wall. The office itself was a perfect blend of modern design and classical elegance, much like the man who occupied it. Robert Richardson, CEO of Thompson & Company, was an imposing figure even seated behind his massive oak desk. His salt and pepper hair was neatly combed back, and his piercing blue eyes seemed to look right through me as I approached. "Jack Thompson," he said, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "I've been looking forward to this meeting. Please, have a seat." I settled into one of the plush leather chairs facing his desk, my mind racing with possibilities. What did the CEO of Thompson & Company want with me? "Thank you for seeing me, Mr. Richardson," I began, but he waved his hand dismissively. "Let's cut to the chase, shall we?" He leaned forward, his elbows resting on the desk. "I've been following your career with great interest, Jack. Your work with our subsidiaries has been nothing short of extraordinary." I felt a surge of pride at his words, but kept my expression neutral. "Thank you, sir. I've always believed in giving my all to every project I undertake." He nodded, approvingly. "That's precisely the kind of attitude we need here at headquarters, which is why I called you here today." Mr. Richardson paused, his eyes studying me intently. I held my breath, waiting for him to continue. "I have a proposition for you, Jack. One that could change the course of your career, and potentially the future of this company." My heart rate quickened. Was this the opportunity I've been working towards all these years? "As you may know," Mr. Richardson continued, "we're planning to launch a new subsidiary focused on substantial energy solutions. It's a venture that could revolutionize not just our company, but the entire industry, and I want you to lead it." I blinked, momentarily stunned by his words. "Lead it, sir?" He nodded, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "That's right. You'll be responsible for getting the subsidiary off the ground, overseeing its operations, and ensuring its success. It's a huge responsibility, but based on your track record, I believe you're more than capable." My mind was reeling. This was an incredible opportunity, one that could catapult my career to new heights. But it was also a massive challenge, one that would require all of my skills and experience. "I'm honored, Mr. Richardson," I said carefully. "May I ask why you've chosen me for this role? Surely there are others with more experience at the executive level." Mr. Richardson leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. "Experience at the executive level can be learned, Jack. What can't be taught is the kind of drive and innovative thinking you've consistently demonstrated. You have a unique ability to see potential where others see obstacles. That's exactly what we need for this venture." I nodded, absorbing his words. "Thank you, sir. I'm truly grateful for this opportunity. When would you need an answer?" "Take a few days to think it over," he replied. "This isn't a decision to be made lightly, but I will say this. I believe this could be the making of you, Jack. It's a chance to leave your mark on the company, and potentially the world." As I left Mr. Richardson's office, my head was spinning with all the implications of our conversation. This was the chance of a lifetime, but it also came with enormous pressure and responsibility. Lost in thought, I almost collided with someone as I rounded a corner. I looked up, startled to find myself face to face with Tyler Richardson.
Watch where you're going, Thompson.
He sneered, straightening his designer suit.
What are you doing up here anyway? Get lost on your way to the mailroom?
I bit back a retort, reminding myself that this was the CEO's son, regardless of his attitude. I had a meeting with your father, actually. Tyler's eyes narrowed suspiciously.
My father? What would he want with you?
Before I could respond, a new voice joined our conversation. Is there a problem here, gentlemen? We both turned to see Sarah Chen approaching, her expression stern. Tyler's demeanor changed instantly, a charming smile replacing his scowl.
Not at all, Miss Chen. Just welcoming our old friend Jack back to headquarters.
Miss Chen raised an eyebrow, clearly not buying his act. I see. Well, Mr. Thompson, I hope your meeting with Mr. Richardson went well. If you have a moment, I'd like to discuss some operational details with you. Grateful for the interruption, I nodded. Of course, Miss Chen. I'm at your disposal. As we walked away, leaving a fuming Tyler behind, Miss Chen spoke in a low voice. I apologize again for the behavior of certain individuals, Mr. Thompson. Rest assured, it doesn't reflect the values of Thompson and Company. I nodded appreciatively. Thank you, Miss Chen. I understand every company has its challenges. She led me to a small conference room, closing the door behind us. Indeed. Now, Mr. Thompson, I hope you don't mind me being direct, but I'm curious about your meeting with Mr. Richardson. I hesitated, unsure how much I should reveal. Miss Chen seemed to sense my reluctance and smiled reassuringly. I'm not asking you to divulge confidential information. I'm just trying to get a sense of where you might fit into our organization. Your work with our subsidiaries has been exemplary, and I'd like to ensure we leverage your skills effectively here at headquarters. Her words put me at ease. Well, Mr. Richardson has offered me an opportunity to lead a new subsidiary focused on sustainable energy solutions. Miss Chen's eyes widened slightly, a hint of surprise crossing her face before she regained her composure. I see. That's quite an opportunity, Mr. Thompson. Have you decided whether you'll accept? I shook my head. Not yet. It's a big decision. I want to make sure I'm fully prepared for the challenge if I do accept. She nodded approvingly. A wise approach. Well, if you do accept, my team and I will be here to support you. The operational challenges of launching a new subsidiary are significant, but I believe with your experience and our support, we could create something truly revolutionary. As we continued to discuss the potential challenges and opportunities of the new venture, I found myself increasingly drawn to the idea. Mrs. Chen's insights were invaluable, and her confidence in my abilities was encouraging. Our conversation was interrupted by a knock on the door. A young woman poked her head in, looking slightly flustered. I'm so sorry to interrupt, Miss Chen, but there's a situation in the lobby that requires your immediate attention. Miss Chen frowned. What kind of situation? The young woman glanced at me nervously before continuing. It's Miss Sullivan and Mr. Tyler Richardson. They're causing quite a scene. I felt my heart sink. Amber and Tyler? What were they up to now? Miss Chen sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. I see. Thank you, Emily. I'll be right there. She turned to me apologetically. I'm afraid I'll have to deal with this, Mr. Thompson. Perhaps we can continue our discussion later? I nodded, standing up. Of course. Is there anything I can do to help? She seemed to consider this for a moment before nodding. Actually, yes. Your presence might be useful. If you don't mind, that is. Together, we made our way back to the lobby. As we approached, I could hear raised voices echoing through the atrium. My stomach churned as I recognized Amber's shrill tone. The scene that greeted us was chaotic. Amber stood in the center of the lobby, her face flushed with anger, gesticulating wildly, as she shouted at a group of bewildered employees. Tyler stood beside her, looking both amused and slightly worried. You can't do this to me! Amber was yelling. Do you know who I am? Who my boyfriend is? As we approached, I could see tears streaming down her face, smearing her makeup. Her perfectly coiffed hair was in disarray. She looked nothing like the polished professional I had encountered earlier. Miss Chen stepped forward, her voice calm but authoritative. Miss Sullivan, Mr. Richardson, what seems to be the problem here? Amber whirled around, her eyes wild. When she saw me standing beside Miss Chen, her expression twisted into a snarl. You! She shrieked, pointing an accusing finger at me. This is all your fault! I blinked in surprise. Excuse me? Tyler stepped forward, placing a hand on Amber's shoulder.
Babe, calm down. This isn't helping.
But Amber shrugged off his hand, advancing towards me. Don't tell me to calm down! He shows up after 10 years, and suddenly I'm being let go? This can't be a coincidence! My mind reeled. Amber was being fired? And she thought I had something to do with it? Miss Chen's voice cut through the chaos. Miss Sullivan, I assure you that Mr. Thompson has nothing to do with the company's decision. Your termination is a result of your own actions and performance. Amber's face crumpled, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. But I'm dating the CEO's son! That has to count for something, right? I glanced at Tyler, expecting him to jump to Amber's defense. Instead, he looked uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact with everyone. Mrs. Chen's voice was firm but not unkind. Miss Sullivan, your personal relationships have no bearing on your professional performance. The decision has been made, and it's final. Now, I must ask you to leave the premises immediately, or security will escort you out. Amber's shoulders sagged in defeat. She turned to Tyler, her eyes pleading. Tyler, baby, you won't let them do this to me, will you? Tell them they can't fire me. But Tyler took a step back, his expression conflicted.
I'm sorry, Amber. There's nothing I can do. My father, he was pretty clear about this.
The look of betrayal on Amber's face was painful to witness. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. You spineless coward! She spat at Tyler. Then she turned to me, her eyes blazing with hatred. And you! You think you won, don't you? Well, enjoy it while it lasts. You'll never belong here, Jack. You'll always be that pathetic little boy from college, desperate for attention. Her words stung, bringing back painful memories of our breakup. But as I looked at Amber now, all I felt was pity. She was still the same selfish, manipulative person she had been in college, unable to take responsibility for her own actions. Goodbye, Amber, I said quietly. Hope you find what you're looking for. With a final, anguished cry, Amber turned and stormed out of the lobby, leaving a stunned silence in her wake. Miss Chen turned to Tyler, her expression stern. Mr. Richardson, I suggest you return to your office. We'll discuss this incident later. Tyler nodded meekly and slunk away, leaving Miss Chen and me standing in the middle of the lobby. Well, Miss Chen said with a sigh, that was certainly not how I expected this day to go. Mr. Thompson, I apologize again for involving you in this unpleasantness. I shook my head. No need to apologize, Miss Chen. I'm just glad I could help. Even if it was just by being present. She smiled wryly. Your presence was more helpful than you might think. Your calm demeanor in the face of hostility was impressive. It's exactly the kind of leadership we need here at Thompson & Company. Her words warmed me, helping to dispel the lingering unease with the confrontation from Amber. Now, Miss Chen continued, why don't we grab a coffee? I think we both could use one after that spectacle. And I'd like to continue our earlier conversation about the new subsidiary. As we made our way to the executive lounge, I felt a sense of belonging that I hadn't experienced in years. Despite the drama of Amber and Tyler, or perhaps because of it, I knew that I was exactly where I needed to be. The next few days flew by in a whirlwind of meetings, presentations, and strategy sessions. I threw myself into learning everything I could about the proposed sustainable energy subsidiary, determined to make the most of this opportunity. By the end of the week, I had made my decision. I scheduled a meeting with Mr. Richardson to give him my answer. As I sat across from him in his office, I felt a sense of deja vu. But this time, there was no nervousness, no uncertainty. I knew exactly what I wanted. Mr. Richardson, I began, I want to thank you again for this incredible opportunity. After careful consideration, I've decided to accept your offer to lead the new sustainable energy subsidiary. Mr. Richardson's face broke into a wide smile. Excellent, Jack. I had a feeling you'd make the right choice. Welcome aboard. As we shook hands, I felt a surge of excitement and determination. This was the chance I had been working towards for years, and I was ready to make the most of it. Now, Mr. Richardson said, leaning back in his chair, let's talk about your vision for this new venture. I have a feeling it's going to change the face of Thompson & Company, and perhaps the entire industry. As we delved into the details of the new subsidiary, I couldn't help but think about how far it had come. From the insecure college student who let himself be pushed around by Amber, to the confident executive about to lead a groundbreaking new venture. The path hadn't been easy, but every challenge, every setback had led me to this moment, and I was ready to face whatever came next head on. Little did I know that the greatest challenge and the greatest reward was yet to come. The journey of launching the new subsidiary would test me in ways I never imagined, forcing me to confront not just professional obstacles, but personal demons as well. But that's a story for another time. For now, I had a new chapter to write, both for myself and for Mr. Thompson and Company, and I couldn't wait to get started. As the weeks passed, I threw myself into the preparation for launching the new subsidiary. My days were filled with meetings, research, and strategic planning. The challenge was immense, but I thrived on it. One afternoon, I was poring over some financial projections in my new office. There was a knock at the door. I looked up to see Tyler Richardson standing in the doorway, looking uncharacteristically nervous.
Got a minute, Thompson?
He asked, his usual bravado noticeably absent. Surprised by his subdued demeanor, I nodded. Sure, come in. Tyler entered, closing the door behind him. He stood awkwardly for a moment before speaking.
Look, I wanted to apologize for everything. The way I treated you, the things I said, it wasn't cool.
I leaned back in my chair, studying him. This was certainly unexpected. What brought this on? I asked, genuinely curious. Tyler sighed, running a hand through his hair.
Yeah, after that whole scene with Amber, my dad had a long talk with me. Made me realize some things about myself, you know? And then seeing you drive into this new project, working your ass off, it got me thinking.
I nodded, encouraging him to continue.
Yeah, I've been coasting my dad's name for so long,
Tyler admitted.
Never really pushed myself. Never tried to prove my own worth. But watching you, I want that, man. I want to earn my place here, not just have it handed to me.
His words surprised me. It seemed the arrogant, entitled Tyler I had first met was capable of growth after all. That's really mature of you, Tyler, I said sincerely. So, what are you going to do now? He straightened up, a look of determination crossing his face.
I'm going to start from the bottom. Ask my dad to put me in one of our smaller subsidiaries. Learn the ropes properly. No special treatment.
I couldn't help but smile. That's commendable, Tyler. It won't be easy, but I think you'll learn a lot. Tyler nodded, then hesitated before speaking again.
I was wondering, if you wouldn't mind, maybe I could come to you for advice sometimes? You've got the experience I need, and, well, I like to learn from you if that's okay.
His request caught me off guard, but I felt a surge of pride. Here was the CEO's son asking for my guidance. It was a far cry from our first encounter. Of course, I said. My door is always open. Relief washed over Tyler's face.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
He turned to leave, then paused at the door.
Oh, and Thompson? Congratulations on the new subsidiary. If anyone can make it a success, it's you.
As Tyler left, I sat back, marveling at how much had changed in such a short time. From being looked down upon by Tyler and Amber, to earning their respect, or in Amber's case, resentful acknowledgement. It was a testament to how far I'd come. There was no time to dwell on these reflections. I had a subsidiary to launch, a team to build, and a vision to realize. The real work was just beginning. Over the next few months, I poured every ounce of my energy and expertise into getting the sustainable energy subsidiary off the ground. We assembled a team of brilliant minds from various fields: engineers, environmental scientists, market analysts, and more. Our first major project was the development of a revolutionary new solar panel technology that promised to double the efficiency of existing models. The potential impact was enormous, not just for our company, but for the global push towards renewable energy. As we neared the launch date for our first product, the pressure was intense. Late nights at the office became the norm, and I often found myself catching quick naps on the couch in my office. It was during one of these late nights that I received an unexpected visitor. I was reviewing some final test results when there was a soft knock on my door. "Come in," I called, not looking up from my computer. You know, burning the midnight oil every night isn't sustainable, even for a sustainable energy company. I looked up, surprised to see Sarah Chen standing in my doorway, a wry smile on her face. "Miss Chen?" I said, straightening up. "What brings you here so late?" She entered, closing the door behind her. "I could ask you the same thing, Mr. Thompson. It's nearly midnight." I glanced at my watch. startled to realize she was right. I guess I lost track of time, I admitted sheepishly. Miss Chen nodded, her expression softening. It's admirable, your dedication. But you need to take care of yourself too. A burnt-out leader isn't good for anyone. Her concern touched me. Over the past few months, Sarah Chen had become not just a colleague, but a mentor and friend. Her guidance had been invaluable as I navigated the challenges of my new role. I know, I sighed. It's just, there's so much riding on this launch. If we fail... You won't fail, she said firmly. The work you and your team have done is extraordinary. But you need to trust in that work, and in your team. You can't do everything yourself. I nodded, knowing she was right. Thank you, Sarah. I needed to hear that. She smiled, then reached into her bag and pulled out a small package. Here, she said, handing it to me. I thought you might need this. I opened the package to find a state-of-the-art smartwatch. What's this for? I asked, puzzled. It's programmed to monitor your stress levels and sleep patterns, she explained. It'll remind you to take breaks, to breathe, to sleep. Consider it a gift from the company. We need our rising star in top form. I was touched by the thoughtful gift. Thank you, Sarah. This means a lot. She nodded, then fixed me with a stern look. Now, promise me you'll go home and get some rest. The launch isn't for another week, and we need you to be at your best. I chuckled, holding up my hands in surrender. Alright, I'm going. As I packed up my things and prepared to leave, Sarah's words echoed in my mind. She was right. I couldn't do everything alone. I had a talented team, supportive colleagues, and a company that believed in me. It was time to trust in that support. The night before the product launch, I found myself unable to sleep. Despite my exhaustion, my mind was racing with all the possibilities, both good and bad, of what the next day could bring. Unable to lie still any longer, I got up and went to the kitchen to make some tea. As I waited for the water to boil, I glanced at the smartwatch Sarah had given me. The stress monitor was flashing red. No surprise there. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves. As I did, my eyes fell on a framed photo on my kitchen counter. It was a picture of me from college, taken just before I met Amber. I looked so young, so full of hope and ambition. Picking up the photo, I couldn't help but smile. That bright-eyed kid had no idea what was coming. Heartbreak, the struggles, the long nights of doubt and frustration. But he also had no idea of the triumphs, the growth, the moments of pure joy that lay ahead. As I stood there, lost in reflection, my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Sarah Chen. Big day tomorrow. Remember to breathe. You got this, Jack. Her words brought a smile to my face and a sense of calm to my racing thoughts. I tapped out a quick reply. Thanks, Sarah. Your support means more than you know. I put my phone down and took another deep breath. The launch tomorrow wasn't just about the new solar panel technology. It was about proving myself and everyone else that I belonged here, that I had earned my place at the top. With renewed determination, I finished my tea and went back to bed. This time, sleep came easily. The next morning dawned bright and clear. As I stood in front of the mirror adjusting my tie, I could hardly believe the day had finally arrived. Months of hard work, sleepless nights, and relentless dedication had led to this moment. I arrived at the office early, wanting to do one final check before the launch event. The energy in the building was electric, with everyone from interns to executives buzzing with excitement. As I walked through the lobby, I couldn't help but remember my first day back at headquarters. The confrontation with Amber, the uncertainty I had felt. It seemed like a lifetime ago. Just then, I heard a familiar voice call out my name. I turned to see Tyler Richardson jogging towards me, a wide grin on his face.
Jack, man, I'm glad I caught you, he said, slightly out of breath. I just wanted to wish you good luck before the big show. You're gonna knock it out of the park. I know it.
I was touched by his enthusiasm. Thanks, Tyler. That means a lot. He nodded, then hesitated for a moment before speaking again.
Listen, I know we didn't get off to the best start, but I want you to know, I really admire what you've done here. The way you've led this project, how you brought everyone together, it's inspiring, man.
His words caught me off guard. Thank you, Tyler. Very kind of you to say. He shrugged, a bit embarrassed.
Just telling it like it is. Oh, and I want to let you know, I'm starting at the Springfield subsidiary next week. taking your advice about learning from the ground up.
I couldn't help but smile. That's great news, Tyler. I'm proud of you. It won't be easy, but it'll be worth it. Tyler nodded, his expression determined.
I know. And hey, maybe one day we'll be working side by side here at HQ, huh?
I look forward to it, I said sincerely. As Tyler walked away, I felt a surge of pride, not just in myself, but in him too. People really could change if given the chance and the right motivation. As I stood on the stage, fielding questions from reporters and investors, I caught sight of Mr. Richardson in the back of the room. He gave me a subtle nod and a smile, his eyes shining with pride. In that moment, I knew we had done it. We had succeeded beyond our wildest expectations. The after-party was in full swing, with champagne flowing and congratulations coming from all directions. I was in the middle of a conversation with an impressed investor when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned to find Sarah Chen standing there, a warm smile on her face. "Congratulations, Jack," she said, handing me a glass of champagne. "You've done something truly remarkable here." "Thank you, Sarah," I replied, clinking my glass against hers. "But it wasn't just me. This was a team effort, and I couldn't have done it without your support." She nodded, her eyes twinkling. "True, but every team needs a leader, and you've proven yourself to be an exceptional one." Just then, Mr. Richardson joined us, clapping me on the back.
"Jack, my boy, you've outdone yourself. This launch has exceeded all our expectations."
I felt a flush of pride at his words. "Thank you, sir. I'm just glad we were able to bring your vision to life." Mr. Richardson shook his head.
"No, Jack. This wasn't my vision. It was yours. You took the opportunity I gave you and turned it into something far greater than I could have imagined."
He paused, glancing at Sarah, who nodded encouragingly.
"In fact," he continued, "that's part of why I wanted to talk to you. Jack, how would you feel about taking on an even bigger role in the company?"
My heart skipped a beat. "Sir?"
"I'm not getting any younger," Mr. Richardson said with a chuckle. "After seeing what you've accomplished here, Sarah and I both agree. You're ready for more responsibility. We'd like to groom you for an executive position. Eventually, perhaps even..."
He trailed off, but the implication was clear. My mind reeled at the possibility. Me? Potentially becoming the CEO of Thompson & Company? It seemed too good to be true. I don't know what to say," I stammered. Sarah stepped in, her voice gentle but firm. "You don't have to decide anything right now, Jack. This is just the beginning of a conversation. But we want you to know, you have a bright future here at Thompson & Company. As bright as you want it to be." As I stood there, surrounded by the fruits of my labor and the promise of an even brighter future, I couldn't help but think back to that day in college when Amber had broken my heart. At the time, it felt like the end of the world. But now, I realized it had been the beginning of my journey to where I was meant to be. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of congratulations and conversations about the future. As the party wound down, I found myself alone on the balcony, looking out over the city's skyline. The door behind me opened, and I turned to see Mr. Richardson joining me. He stood beside me, both of us silently taking in the view for a moment.
"You know, Jack," he said finally, "when I first offered you the chance to lead the subsidiary, I had high hopes, but you've surpassed even my highest expectations."
I nodded, grateful for his words. "Thank you, sir. It means a lot to hear you say that." He turned to face me, his expression serious.
"I meant what I said earlier, about grooming you for a bigger role. But I want you to understand something. It won't be easy. The higher you climb, the more challenge you face. Are you ready for that?"
I thought about everything I've been through to get to this point. The heartbreak, the long hours, the self-doubt. But I also thought about the triumphs, the growth, the sense of purpose I'd found. "Yes, sir," I said firmly. "I'm ready. Whatever challenges come, I'll face them head on." Mr. Richardson smiled, clapping me on the shoulder.
"That's what I like to hear. Now go home and get some rest. You've earned it. Tomorrow, we start planning for the future."
As I left the office that night, I felt a sense of excitement and anticipation for what lay ahead. The launch had been a success beyond my wildest dreams, but it was just the beginning. There were more challenges to face, more mountains to climb. But this time, I wasn't the insecure college kid desperate for approval. I was Jack Thompson, leader, innovator, and future executive of Thompson & Company, and I was ready for whatever came next. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. The success of our sustainable energy subsidiary had opened up new opportunities and challenges. We were flooded with partnership offers, investment proposals, and media requests. It was exhilarating, but also exhausting. One afternoon, as I was reviewing some expansion plans in my office, there was a knock at my door. I looked up to see Sarah Chen standing there, a concerned expression on her face. "Jack, do you have a moment?" she asked. I nodded, gesturing for her to come in. "Of course, Sarah. What's on your mind?" She sat down across from me, her brow forward. "I've been looking over your work schedule for the past month. Jack, you're pushing yourself too hard. You're here before dawn and leave well past midnight most days. This isn't sustainable." I sighed, rubbing my temples. She wasn't wrong. The launch's success had brought a new level of pressure, and I've been working around the clock to keep up. "I know, Sarah," I admitted. "It's just, there's so much to do. We have to capitalize on this momentum." Sarah leaned forward, her eyes kind but firm. "I understand that, Jack, but running yourself into the ground isn't the answer. You're no good to the company if you burn out." She was right, of course. I've been so focused on proving myself worthy of the future Mr. Richardson had hinted at, that I had lost sight of the importance of balance. "You're right," I said finally. "I guess I got carried away. It's just, I don't want to let anyone down." Sarah's expression softened. "Jack, you've already proven yourself beyond any doubt. Now you need to prove that you can lead sustainably. That means taking care of yourself, dedicating when necessary, and trusting your team." I nodded, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. "Thank you, Sarah. I needed to hear that. I'll make some changes, I promise." She smiled, standing up. "Good. And make sure you follow through. I'm ordering you to take the weekend off. No work, no emails, no phone calls. Just rest and recharge. Can you do that?" I chuckled, holding up my hands in surrender. All right, I'll do it. A weekend off sounds pretty amazing, actually." As Sarah left my office, I leaned back in my chair thinking about her words. She was right. I needed to find a better balance. The company needed me at my best, not burnt out and exhausted. That weekend, for the first time in months, I allowed myself to truly relax. I spent time with friends, caught up on sleep, and even took a long hike in the nearby state park. By Monday morning, I felt refreshed and reinvigorated, ready to tackle the challenges ahead with a clearer mind. As I walked into the office that Monday, I noticed a commotion near the reception area. Curious, I made my way over, only to stop short at the sight before me. There, looking lost and more than a little desperate, stood Amber Sullivan. Our eyes met, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. She looked different from the last time I'd seen her. Gone was the polished, arrogant exterior. In its place was a woman who looked tired, humbled, and a little scared. "Jack," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. I need your help." I stood there frozen, as a flood of emotions washed over me. Part of me wanted to turn around and walk away, to let her deal with whatever problem she had on her own. But another part, the part that had grown and matured over the years, knew I couldn't do that. "Amber," I said, keeping my voice neutral, "what are you doing here?" She glanced around nervously, clearly aware of the attention we were attracting. "Can we talk somewhere private, please?" I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Follow me." As we walked into my office, I could feel the curious eyes of my colleagues following us. No doubt this would be the subject of office gossip for days to come. Once inside my office, I closed the door and turned to face Amber. "Alright, what's this about?" Amber took a deep breath, wringing her hands nervously. I've made a mess of things, Jack. After I left here, I couldn't find another job. My reputation was ruined. I've been struggling and I need a second chance." I raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "And you came to me for the second chance? After everything that happened?" She had the grace to look ashamed. I know I treated you terribly, both in college and when we met again here. I was selfish and cruel, and I'm sorry. I've had a lot of time to think about my behavior, and I'm trying to be better." I studied her for a moment, trying to gauge her sincerity. "Why now, Amber? Why come back here?" She sighed, slumping into one of the chairs in front of my desk. "I heard about your success with the new subsidiary. It's all over the news, and I realized you've become everything I've always claimed to want. Successful, respected, powerful. But you did it the right way, through hard work and integrity. I want to learn how to do that. Her words surprised me. This was a side of Amber I'd never seen. Humble, introspective, willing to admit her faults. What exactly are you asking for, Amber? I asked, my voice softening slightly. She looked up at me, her eyes pleading. A job. Any job. I'll start at the bottom if I have to. I need a chance to prove that I can change, that I can be better. I leaned back against my desk, considering her request. Part of me wanted to help her, to give her the chance she was asking for. But another part remembered the pain she had caused, the chaos she had brought to the office. Amber, I said finally, I appreciate your apology, and I'm glad to hear you want to change. But I can't just give you a job here. It wouldn't be fair to the other employees. And frankly, I'm not sure I can trust you yet. Her face fell, but she nodded, accepting my words. I understand. I guess I shouldn't have expected anything else after how I behaved. I watched her for a moment, an idea forming in my head. However, I continued, if you're serious about wanting to change and learn, I might have a suggestion. Amber looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. What kind of suggestion? We have a partnership with a non-profit organization that provides job training and placement services for people looking to restart their careers, I explained. It's not a job here at Thompson & Company, but it could be a fresh start. A chance to learn new skills, rebuild your reputation, and prove that you're serious about changing. Amber's eyes widened. You do that for me? After everything? I nodded. Everyone deserves a second chance, Amber. But it's up to you to make the most of it. This won't be easy. You have to work hard, probably harder than you ever have before. Are you ready for that? She stood up, a look of determination on her face. Yes. Yes, I am. Thank you, Jack. I promise I won't let you down. As I watched Amber leave my office, contact information for the nonprofit in hand, I felt a sense of closure. The angry, hurt part of me that had long resented Amber for her treatment of me finally began to heal. Later that day, as I was leaving the office, I ran into Sarah Chen in the elevator. I heard about your visitor today, she said, a hint of concern in her voice. Are you alright? I nodded, a small smile on my face. You know, I think I am. It was unexpected, but I think it was something I needed. Sarah studied me for a moment, then smiled. You handled it well, Jack. Compassion and forgiveness are important qualities in a leader. As the elevator doors opened and we stepped out into the lobby, I realized something. The Jack who had first walked through these doors, nervous and unsure, was gone. In his place was someone stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. The journey hadn't been easy, but every step, even the painful ones, had led me to where I was meant to be. And as I looked towards the future, I felt ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The next morning, I arrived at the office early, my mind already buzzing with ideas for our next big project. As I walked through the lobby, I noticed a group of people gathered around the reception desk, whispering excitedly. Curious, I approached, only to see they were gathered around a newspaper. The receptionist looked up as I neared, her eyes wide with excitement. Mr. Thompson, have you seen this? She asked, holding up the paper. I took it from her, my eyes widening as I read the headline. Thompson & Company's Sustainable Energy Division revolutionizes solar technology. Stock soars to record highs. The article went on to detail the groundbreaking nature of our new solar panels and their potential impact on the renewable energy sector. Analysts were predicting that this could be a game changer, not just for our company, but for the entire industry. As I stood there, taking in the enormity of what we had accomplished, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I turned to see Mr. Richardson standing beside me, a proud smile on his face.
What a headline, isn't it, Jack?
He said, his eyes twinkling. I nodded, still somewhat in awe. It's incredible, sir. I never imagined we'd make such a big splash. Mr. Richardson chuckled.
Well, I did. That's why I put you in charge. Come on, let's talk in my office.
As we walked to his office, employees stopped to congratulate me, their faces beaming with pride and excitement. It was a far cry from the skeptical looks I received when I first returned to headquarters. Once in his office, Mr. Richardson closed the door and turned to me, his expression serious.
Jack, what you've accomplished with this project is nothing short of extraordinary. You've not only met our expectations, You've exceeded them in tenfold.
I felt a flush of pride at his words. Thank you, sir. But it was a team effort. I couldn't have done it without the incredible people working with me. He nodded approvingly.
And that's exactly why you're the right person to lead us into the future. You understand the value of teamwork, but you also have the vision and drive to push boundaries.
Mr. Richardson walked to his desk and picked up a folder.
That's why I want to offer you this,
he said, handing me the folder. I opened it, my eyes widening as I read the contents. It was an offer for the position of Chief Innovation Officer, a new role that would put me in charge of driving forward-thinking initiatives all across all of Thompson & Company's divisions. Sir, I don't know what to say, I stammered, overwhelmed by the opportunity before me. Mr. Richardson smiled.
Say yes, Jack. This company needs your vision, your drive. We're entering a new era, and I want you at the forefront of it.
I took a deep breath, my mind racing with the possibilities this new role could bring. Yes, I said finally, my voice firm. Yes, I accept. Thank you for this incredible opportunity, Mr. Richardson. He clapped me on the shoulder, his face beaming.
Excellent. We'll make the announcement this afternoon. Get ready, Jack. Your life is about to change in ways you can't even imagine.
As I left Mr. Richardson's office, my head spinning with excitement, I nearly collided with Sarah Chin in the hallway. "Hello there, Jack," she said, steadying me. "You look like you've seen a ghost. Everything okay?" I couldn't help the grin that spread across my face. "Better than okay, Sarah. Mr. Richardson just offered me the position of Chief Innovation Officer." Sarah's eyes widened. Then she broke into a warm smile. "Jack, that's fantastic news. Congratulations." She pulled me into a quick hug. "I knew you could do it. You've earned this, every bit of it." As we chatted excitedly about the new role and its implications, I couldn't help but marvel at how far I've come. From the heartbroken college kid to the newly appointed C-suite executive of the Fortune 500 company. It had been quite a journey. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. The announcement of my new position was met with overwhelmingly positive reactions, both within the company and in the broader business world. I found myself thrust into the spotlight, giving interviews to major business publications, and speaking at industry conferences. But amidst all the excitement and new responsibilities, I made sure to stay grounded. I remembered Sarah's advice about balance and made a conscious effort to delegate tasks and trust my team. I also made time for myself, maintaining my weekend hikes and even taking up meditation to help manage the increased stress. One evening, as I was preparing to leave the office after a particularly long day, I received an unexpected email. It was from Amber. My finger hovered over the delete button for a moment, old instincts kicking in, but curiosity got the better of me, and I opened it. "Dear Jack, I hope this email finds you well. I wanted to update you on my progress with the nonprofit organization you recommended. It's been challenging, but also incredibly rewarding. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm growing as a person, not just chasing after status or money. I saw the news about your promotion to Chief Innovation Officer. Congratulations. I know I have no right to say this, but I'm proud of you, Jack. You've become the kind of person I always pretended to be, but never had the courage to actually become. I don't expect forgiveness or friendship. I just wanted you to know that your kindness, even after everything I put you through, has made a real difference in my life. Thank you. Wishing you all the best, Amber." I leaned back in my chair, a mix of emotions washing over me. Pride in how far I've come, a sense of closure for the pain of the past, and a glimmer of hope for Amber's future. After a moment's hesitation, I hit reply and typed out a short message. "Amber, thank you for your email. I'm glad to hear the program is helping you. Keep pushing forward. Real growth is never easy, but it's always worth it. Wishing you the best in your journey, Jack." As I hit send, I felt a weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying lift from my shoulders. The last remnants of the insecure college kid, still smarting from Amber's rejection, finally faded away. I stood up, gathering my things to head home. As I walked through the now quiet office, I paused to look over at the city skyline. The lights of New York twinkled in the darkness, a testament to countless dreams and ambitions contained within this bustling metropolis. My own dreams had changed so much over the years, from seeking validations from others to finding it within myself. From chasing success for its own sake, to wanting to make a real difference in the world. As Chief Innovation Officer, I now had the power to shape the future of not just Thompson and Company, but potentially entire industries. It was a responsibility I didn't take lightly. I thought about the challenges that lay ahead, the pressure to continually innovate, the need to balance profit with social responsibility, the task of inspiring and leading teams to achieve what might seem impossible. But as I stood there, looking out over the city I called home, I felt ready. Ready to face whatever came next. Ready to learn from my mistakes and celebrate my success. Ready to keep growing, keep pushing forward. The journey that had started with a broken heart in college had led me here, the cusp of something truly extraordinary, and I couldn't wait to see what the next chapter would bring. As I turned to leave, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Don't forget, strategy meeting tomorrow at 9. Bring your A game and your crazy ideas. We're gonna change the world." I smiled, typing back a quick reply. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Get ready. The future starts tomorrow. With that, I stepped into the elevator, ready to head home and rest up for the challenges and opportunities that awaited me. As the doors closed, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the polished metal. The face looking back at me was confident, determined, and unmistakably happy. Jack Thompson, Chief Innovation Officer. It had a nice ring to it. The next morning, I arrived at the office early, my mind buzzing with ideas for the strategy meeting. As I walked through the lobby, I noticed a group of new interns being given a tour. Their wide-eyed expression of awe reminded me of my own first day at Thompson & Company all those years ago. On impulse, I approached the group. The tour guide, recognizing me, quickly introduced me to the interns. Their excitement at meeting the new Chief Innovation Officer was palpable. "Any advice for us, Mr. Thompson?" one of them asked eagerly. I thought for a moment, then smiled. "Remember this. Success isn't about impressing others or accumulating titles. It's about staying true to yourself, working hard and never stopping learning. Oh, don't be afraid to make mistakes. They're often our best teachers." As I watched their faces light up with inspiration, I felt a sense of responsibility. These young people were the future of our company, of our industry. It was up to me and the other leaders to set the right example, create an environment where they could thrive and innovate. With renewed purpose, I headed to the conference room for the strategy meeting. As I entered, I saw Sarah and Mr. Richardson already there, deep in discussion.
"Ah, Jack,"
Mr. Richardson called out.
"Just the man we were talking about. Ready to shake things up?"
I grinned, taking my seat at the table. "Always, sir. I've got some ideas I think you're going to love." As the rest of the executive team filed in, I felt a surge of excitement. This was where the real work began. The work of shaping the future, turning ideas into reality, of making a lasting impact on the world. The meeting began, and as I started to present my vision for the company's future, I realized something. This, right here, right now, was what I've been working towards all along. Not the title, not the corner office, but the opportunity to make a real difference. The journey had been long and often difficult, but every step had led me here. And as I looked around the table at my colleagues, now turned to me with rapt attention, I knew that the best was yet to come. The future was bright, full of challenges and opportunities. I was ready to face it head on, the lessons of my past guiding me, and the promise of tomorrow inspiring me. This wasn't the end of my story. In many ways, it was just the beginning, and I couldn't wait to see where it would lead next. As the meeting progressed, ideas flew back and forth across the table. We were discussing not just the future of Thompson & Company, potentially the future of entire industries. Solar energy was just the beginning. We were exploring possibilities in everything from sustainable agriculture to space exploration. What if we could use our solar technology to power vertical farms in urban areas? I suggested, my excitement building. We could revolutionize food production, reduce carbon emissions from transportation, and help solve food scarcity issues all at once. The room buzzed with enthusiasm as we began to flesh out the idea. This is what innovation was all about, connecting dots that others hadn't even seen yet. As the meeting drew to a close, Mr. Richardson stood up, a broad smile on his face.
"I have to say, Jack, when I promoted you to this position, I had high hopes, but you've exceeded even my wildest expectations. This is exactly the kind of forward thinking we need to stay ahead in this rapidly changing world."
His words filled me with pride, but also with a sense of responsibility. We weren't just talking about profits and market share anymore. We were talking about shaping the future, about making the world a better place. As we filed out of the conference room, Sarah fell into step beside me. "That was impressive, Jack," she said, her eyes twinkling. "But I hope you realize what you've done. The board is going to expect miracles from you now." I laughed, feeling more energized than I had in years. Well, then I guess we better start working on those miracles, hadn't we? Over the next few months, we threw ourselves into bringing our new ideas to life. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks, failures, moments of doubt. But with each obstacle we overcame, each small victory we achieved, I felt more certain that we were on the right path. One evening, as I was working late in my office, I received an unexpected visitor. It was Tyler Richardson, looking nervous but determined.
Jack, you have a moment?
He asked, hovering in the doorway. Of course, Tyler, come in, I said, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. How's it going at Springfield Subsidiary? Tyler sat down, a small smile playing on his lips.
It's challenging, but in a good way, you know? I'm learning so much. For the first time, and I feel like I'm really earning my place in the company.
I nodded, feeling a surge of pride for how far Tyler had come. That's great to hear, Tyler. So, what brings you here tonight? He took a deep breath, as if steeling himself.
You know, I have an idea, a big one, and I wanted to run it by you before I take it to my supervisor.
As Tyler began to outline his idea, a revolutionary new approach to supply chain management that could significantly reduce our carbon footprint, I found myself impressed not just by the idea itself, but by the thought and research he had clearly put into it. This was not the same entitled, arrogant Tyler I had first met. This was a young man who had taken his second chance and run with it, who had learned the value of hard work and innovation. When he finished speaking, I leaned back in my chair, a smile spreading across my face. Tyler, that's really impressive. I think you might be onto something big here. His face lit up with excitement and relief.
Really? You think so?
I nodded, already seeing the potential applications across our various divisions. I do. In fact, I'd like you to present this idea at our next innovation meeting. I think it could be a game changer for us. Tyler's eyes widened in surprise.
Me? Present to the executive team? Are you sure?
Absolutely, I said firmly. This is your idea, Tyler. You've earned the right to present it yourself. As Tyler left my office, practically bouncing with excitement, I couldn't help but reflect on how much I had changed. A year ago, I never would have imagined myself mentoring the CEO's son, or that he would come up with an idea that could potentially transform our company. It was a reminder that people could change, that second chances could pay off, and that sometimes the most innovative ideas could come from unexpected places. The next day, as I was grabbing a coffee from the break room, I overheard two employees chatting excitedly.
Did you hear about the new project Jack Thompson is spearheading?
One of them said.
I heard it's going to revolutionize urban agriculture.
The other nodded enthusiastically.
Yeah. And did you see the stock price this morning? It's through the roof. My dad's kicking himself for not investing more when I told him about Thompson & Company's new direction.
I smiled to myself as I stirred my coffee. It was gratifying to hear the excitement in their voices, to know that our work was having a real impact not just on the company, but on people's lives. As I walked back to my office, I found Sarah waiting for me, a stern look on her face. Jack, we need to talk, she said, following me into my office and closing the door behind her. My heart sank. Had something gone wrong with one of our projects? Was there a problem with the board? What's up, Sarah? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. She crossed her arms, fixing me with a piercing stare. You've been here until midnight every day this week. Don't think I haven't noticed. I blinked, surprised. This was about my work hours? Sarah, I appreciate your concern, but we're in the middle of some huge projects right now. There's just so much to do. She held up a hand, cutting me off. I know, Jack. I know how important these projects are. But do you remember what I told you when you first took on this role? About balance? I nodded, feeling a bit like a scolded schoolboy. I remember. This is different. We're on the verge of something big here, Sarah. I can feel it. Her expression softened. I know you can, and that's exactly why you need to take care of yourself. We need you at your best, Jack. Not burnt out and running on caffeine and willpower. I sighed, knowing she was right. In my excitement over our new projects, I had fallen back into my old workaholic habits. You're right, I admitted. I'll try to do better. Sarah smiled, relief evident in her eyes. Good, because I've already booked you a weekend at a wellness retreat upstate. No phones, no internet, just rest and relaxation. And before you argue, she added, seeing me open my mouth to protest, it's non-refundable, And Mr. Richardson has already approved it. I chuckled, shaking my head in amazement. You really do think of everything, don't you? Someone has to, she replied with a wink. Now, go home at a reasonable hour today, okay? The company will still be here on Monday. As Sarah left, I leaned back in my chair pondering her words. She was right, of course. My drive to push the company forward, I had neglected my own well-being, and if I wasn't at my best, how could I expect to lead others effectively? That weekend at the wellness retreat turned out to be exactly what I needed. Away from the constant buzz of emails and phone calls, I found myself able to think more clearly than I had in months. Ideas that had been just out of reach suddenly crystallized, and I returned to the office on Monday feeling refreshed and reinvigorated. As I walked into the lobby that Monday morning, I noticed a familiar face at the reception desk. It was Amber, dressed in a smart business suit, talking animatedly with the receptionist. For a moment, I considered ducking into the elevator without saying hello, but something made me pause. Curiosity? Perhaps, or maybe a desire for closure. Amber? I called out as I approached. She turned, her eyes widening in surprise. Jack! I wasn't sure I'd run into you. I noticed she was holding a visitor's badge. Are you here for a meeting? She nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. Actually, yes. I'm here representing the nonprofit you recommended. We're discussing a potential partnership with Thompson & Company for a job training program. I blinked in surprise. This was certainly unexpected. That's great, Amber. I'm glad to hear things are going well for you. She nodded, her expression turning serious. They are, and I have you to thank for it, Jack. That recommendation, it changed my life. Gave me a purpose I never knew I needed. I felt a warmth spread through my chest. It was gratifying to know that my small act of kindness had made such a big difference. I'm happy for you, Amber. Truly. She smiled, then glanced at her watch. I should go. My meeting's in a few minutes. But Jack, thank you. For everything. As I watched her walk away, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. The last lingering threads of our shared past seemed to dissolve, leaving behind a sense of peace and maybe even a hint of friendship. The elevator dinged, and as I stepped in, I found myself sharing the car of Tyler Richardson.
Morning, Jack.
He said, looking nervous but excited.
Ready for the big presentation?
I grinned, clapping him on the shoulder. More than ready. You're gonna knock their socks off, Tyler. As we rode up to the executive floor, I marveled at how much had changed. A year ago, I never would have imagined standing side by side with Tyler, mentoring him, watching him grow into a capable and innovative member of the team. The doors opened, and we stepped out into the bustling office. As we walked towards the conference room, I could feel the energy in the air. This wasn't just another day at the office. This was the day we started shaping the future. Tyler's presentation was a resounding success. Supply chain innovation impressed not just the executive team, but Mr. Richardson himself. As the meeting concluded, I couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. This is what leadership was all about. Not just achieving success yourself, but helping others to reach their potential. Later that evening, as I was preparing to head home at a reasonable hour, Sarah would be proud. Mr. Richardson stopped by my office.
Jack, you have a moment?
He asked, his expression unreadable. Of course, sir, gesturing for him to take a seat. He sat down, studying me for a long moment before speaking.
You've done remarkable things here, Jack. The company is thriving. Our employees are more engaged than ever, and we're making real strides in sustainable technology.
I nodded, wondering where this was going. Thank you, sir. It's been a team effort. He smiled.
Indeed it has. But every team needs a leader, Jack. Someone with vision, integrity, and the ability to bring out the best in others.
He paused, his gaze intensifying.
That's why I want to groom you to be my successor.
I felt my jaw drop. Sir, are you saying... Mr. Richardson nodded.
I'm not getting any younger, Jack. I want to make sure that when I step down, Thompson & Company is left in capable hands. Hands that will not just maintain its success, but take us to new heights.
I sat back stunned. CEO of Thompson & Company. It was more than I had ever dreamed of. I don't know what to say, sir. I'm honored, I managed to stammer out. He chuckled.
You don't have to say anything right now, Jack. This isn't a decision to be made lightly. Take some time to think about it. Talk it over with Sarah if you like. She's been advocating for you, you know.
As Mr. Richardson left my office, I found myself staring out the window at New York's skyline. CEO. The word echoed in my head, filled with possibility and responsibility. I thought back to the heartbroken college kid, devastated by Amber's rejection. If someone had told him that one day he'd be offered the chance to lead a Fortune 500 company, he never would have believed it. But here I was, and as I looked out at the city's lights twinkling in the darkness, I knew that this was just the beginning. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever obstacles I might face, I was ready. Because I had learned the most important lesson of all. Success isn't about impressing others or accumulating titles. It's about staying true to yourself, working hard, and never stopping learning. As I gathered my things to head home, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Heard the big news. Proud of you, Jack. Now go home and get some rest. We've got a big future to plan. I smiled, tapping back a quick reply. Thanks, Sarah. Couldn't have done it without you. See you tomorrow. The future starts now. With that, I stepped out of my office, ready to embrace whatever came next. The journey had been long and often difficult, but every step had led me here, and I couldn't wait to see where the path would lead next. As I rolled the elevator down to the lobby, I reflected on the incredible journey that had brought me to this point. From a heartbroken college student to potential CEO of Thompson & Company, it had been a path filled with challenges, growth, and unexpected turns. The doors opened, and I stepped out into the quiet lobby. The night security guard nodded at me with a smile. Now he's used to my late hours despite Sarah's best efforts.
Heading out, Mr. Thompson?
He asked. Yes, Jim, I replied, and hopefully at a reasonable hour for once. He chuckled.
Good to hear, sir. Have a good night.
As I pushed through the revolving doors and stepped out into the bustling New York street, I took a deep breath of the cool night air. The city that never sleeps was alive as ever, a testament to human ambition and perseverance. I decided to walk home instead of calling for a car. The crisp air and the rhythm of my footsteps on the pavement helped to clear my head, allowing me to process the monumental offer Mr. Richardson had just made. CEO of Thompson & Company, it was a role that came with immense responsibility, not just to the company and its employees, but to the world at large. Our work in sustainable energy and innovative technologies had the potential to shape the future of the planet. Was I ready for that level of responsibility? As I walked, my mind drifted back to all the moments that had led me here. The painful breakup with Amber that had initially seemed like the end of the world, but had ultimately pushed me to focus on my career. The long nights working on subsidiary projects, learning and growing with each challenge. The mentorship of Sarah and Mr. Richardson guiding me and believing in me when I doubted myself. I thought about Tyler and how his journey of growth mirrored my own in many ways. About Amber and how she had found her own path to redemption. Even the challenges and setbacks had played their part in shaping me into the leader I had become. Before I knew it, I had arrived at my apartment building. As I rolled the elevator up to my floor, I made a decision. I would accept Mr. Richardson's offer. Not for the prestige or the power, but for the opportunity to make a real difference. To lead Thompson & Company into a future where business success and social responsibility went hand in hand. As I unlocked my door and stepped into my apartment, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew I was ready to face them. I had the skills, the experience, and most importantly, the support of an incredible team. I walked to the window, looking out at the city's skyline. Somewhere out there, the next generation of leaders was dreaming big dreams, facing their own challenges, and forging their own paths. Maybe some of them would end up at Thompson & Company, bringing fresh ideas and new perspectives. The future was bright, full of possibilities, and I was ready to help shape it. With a smile, I turned away from the window and headed to bed. Tomorrow would be the first day of the rest of my journey, and I couldn't wait to see where it would lead. As I drifted off to sleep, my last thoughts were of gratitude for the opportunities I had been given, for the lessons I learned, for the people who had believed in me along the way. Whatever the future held, I knew one thing for certain. I would never forget where I came from, and I always tried to lift others up as I had been lifted. The journey wasn't over. In many ways, it was just the beginning. But now, I was ready. Ready to lead, ready to innovate, and ready to make a difference. Tomorrow was a new day, and the future was ours to create.